Hey guys, Kern here with Four Wheel Trends. Appreciate you guys tuning in. On today's video, I want to talk about the 2023 Toyota Sequoia. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. And the reality is we're going to talk about, is it worth it? You know, that's the big question. Is it worth buying a new Toyota Sequoia? So I'm going to tell you what I love, what drives me crazy. And if you stick to the end, I'll tell you the one thing I really wish I could have done differently. And so with that, let's get into it. All right, first let's talk about the pros. This is a great vehicle, guys. This is a great vehicle. And I would say the number one thing that I like about this car is how great it is on a road trip. So we take a lot of road trips. We live in North Carolina. We're less than 3 hours to the mountains. We're less than 3 hours to the beach. So we're constantly up and down the highway. I've got, 26,000 miles on the car and right at 2 years of ownership or so. My family and I, we did a 1,600 mile round trip, family trip. So, two teenage girls in the back, my wife and me, and all of our gear, taking our daughters, covering, I don't know how many states we crossed, doing campus tours, looking at colleges for my daughters. When we got done with the adaptive cruise on this thing, I had never had adaptive cruise like this. It was a game changer for me because I drove the entire 1,600. Well, I'll take that back. Through part of Georgia, when we left the University of Georgia, I got so sleepy. Ashley drove for about an hour so I could rest. But the rest of the time I was driving, and this thing was just phenomenal on the road. The adaptive cruise, I don't know that I want to buy another car without it because it just makes road trips so much more enjoyable. Another thing that is surprisingly good about this, so you could also, I also could put this on the cons list, is I used to have a 2003 Toyota Sequoia, the first generation. My father actually still has it today. It's got over 240,000 miles and still running strong. I had a 2011 Lexus GX, again, with the super reliable Toyota V8s in them. And I drove that for 12 years, and now my daughter's driven it for 2 years. It's got 140,000 miles, and it's had one major repair in all those years of ownership. So, just super reliable. But this is a hybrid V6 twin turbo hybrid electric. So you've got an electric motor, you've got a V6 motor, and you've got two turbos on it. So what's fun about that is you get, I think it's like 437, is that right? 437 horsepower. But what's really impressive is the torque. So I can shift the knob and put it into sport mode. And this thing will, for such a big full-size SUV, this thing will flat out boogie. I mean, near my house, trying to pull out into traffic, it's a little bit harrowing, in rush hour traffic, trying to pull out into traffic. You put this thing in sports mode and you'll spin the tires. I mean, it'll put your head into the back of the headrest. You'll just plant your head and it'll go. So that piece of it is fun. I still prefer the V8. I just do. I'm a V8 guy. I love the sound. I just love everything about it. That was, you had so many years of engineering perfection in those motors that, I kind of hate to see them go. But we're not on the cons. We're on the pros. Toyota reliability and engineering. So this is an all-new vehicle, an all-new powertrain, all-new, pretty much everything's new. There is a ton of electronics on this vehicle. But everybody's that way now. So the question is, would you rather have GM, Chevy, Jeep, who are the other ones? Ford, they're the other ones that make these full-size vehicles. Or would you rather take your chances with Toyota engineering and reliability? After how good my first Sequoia and then later my Lexus has been, I just had a hard time not buying another Toyota product. So that's a big consideration, that when you're going to spend this much money on a vehicle, you want it to last. The interior size, I talked about road trips. So the one thing about that Lexus GX was how, you know, it's narrow. It's more like a 4Runner size. So you were more shoulder to shoulder with your passengers. With this, you can really spread out. So, I mean, you know, if this would be my normal driving position, I don't touch my wife's seat until about here. So, you know, I would have to put my arm all the way out, and I only hit right here on the edge of her seat. So we don't bump elbows, you know, we have plenty of cup holders. That's one thing about Toyota. They know the American consumer. From that first gen Toyota all the way through, you know, you've got 2 cup holders in the door, 2 in the center console, 2 right here in the back of the center console, 2 in the passenger door. You got them in the rear doors. You got 2 in the center console in the back seat. I mean, you've got them even in the third row. You've got cup holders. So they know how we are here in the U.S. with our beverages and how we like our cup holders. So the space and the comfort is fantastic on these. You know, some people, it may have been Doug DeMuro. He has the TRD Pro, if I remember. And, you know, he took a road trip and he was talking about how you could feel the solid rear axle. You know, that's something Toyota brought back. The first generation, third generation had a solid rear, and the second generation had independent suspension all the way around for towing and for off-road ability. Being able to have that solid rear just gives a lot of options for this platform, from overlanding, from off-roading, from towing. And I really haven't noticed or had any complaints about the on-road handling. But again, I'm a truck and SUV guy. You know, I haven't had a car since 2012. I had a BMW for 6 months. Our kids were little, and they had booster seats, and the sport bolstered seats in those BMWs, you could not get the kids' booster seat to sit. It was always offset, and it would take us 30 minutes to go to the grocery store. My wife and I looked at each other and I said, that thing has to go. So I've been in an SUV ever since. So I've been in the Lexus and been in this, and I've been in a 4Runner, and I've been in under the first Sequoia. So, I mean, we've had a lot of experience. Excuse me. Another good thing is, sort of, is the highway mile per gallon fuel efficiency of the hybrid if you drive in that 55 to 65 range. If you drive in that range, you know, you're going to get around 20 miles per gallon on the highway. So that part is good for such a big vehicle. But if you're like me, and many of the highways around here are 70 miles an hour, once you get much above 65, you know, your gas gauge starts dipping down, and, you know, you're going to be in the high teens on the highway. If you do any driving in the 70 so miles an hour, you're not going to see those 20s like you see on the EPA rating. It just doesn't happen. So I guess that's both a pro and a con. And then the other pro, rather, I would say about a Sequoia is, for now, they've got a strong resale value. Yes, this vehicle came out when you had that major shortage coming out of COVID. So I took delivery of this vehicle in October 2022, 1st of November. It came in October, bought it about an hour and a half, 2 hours from here. So it was like the 1st of November when we actually went to pick it up. And, you know, it was only the second vehicle delivered at that dealership. So I got it very early on, and I worked really hard and to pay sticker price. I was willing to pay MSRP because I felt like having this car to create content for the website made a lot of sense. I needed the tax deduction as a business owner, the Section 179 tax write-off. I needed that in 2022 tax year, and so it was a good purchase, but they're expensive. So I think with everything, you know, I think base MSRP was around 70. You put the add-ons, you know, they've got a TRD Pro front skid plate on this thing. They've added, you know how the dealers are. They'll put a lot of features on them to try to bump the MSRP up. I've got the dash cam, and, you know, I've got the full floor mats throughout. I don't even remember I should pull the sticker out of the glove box, but there were a lot of little add-ons, extra service and stuff like that. But the one thing that, and then what I purchased was that the bumper to bumper warranty. So by far that was a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. $1,900, 10-year, 120,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty. If Toyota still offers that, buy it. 9 times out of 10, I say don't buy the warranty. There's going to be stipulations. There are going to be issues, but this is a Toyota, for Toyota, Southeastern Toyota. It is a factory Toyota dealership warranty available that you can use at any Toyota dealership, and it's transferable. So if I go to sell this vehicle, the next owner is going to have 120,000 miles and 10 years of warranty, just like I do. So it's fully transferable. So $1,900 on my Lexus. I had one major repair in 12 years, and it was like $3,200. So half of one major repair, and I've just bought 10 years of reliability and maintenance and repairs. Now, that's not tires, that's not oil changes and wiper blades. That's maintenance. That's routine maintenance. But if something meaningful breaks, which, it's a new engine, it might, that's too good of a deal. Now if it's over $3,000, then it's a judgment call. But under $3,000, I think that's money well spent, especially if you're going to keep the vehicle for a long time. So that's enough about the pros. Let's talk about the cons. There's some definite cons that if you're thinking about this vehicle or any vehicle right now, you got to think about. The first is the price. Holy cow, guys. I mean, this is a Toyota. It's not a Lexus, but you're paying what I would always thought of as luxury pricing. I mean, this is a limited. So there's 4 or 5 tiers now. And you've got the SR5 as the entry, the SR5. And then you have the limited, the platinum, and the capstone, and the TRD Pro, and then they've got a new one for 2025. I'm blanking on what that is. It's like $1,794 or something like that. You guys let me know in the comments. But this is the second tier, and I paid $75,000 MSRP for it. Now, today, maybe we could do better. I actually, this was a pro for me, was I called every dealership that I could think of from Wisconsin to North Carolina where I live. And big shout out to the guys at Van York Toyota I believe they're in High Point, North Carolina. They earned my business. And the way they did that was everyone else was trying to put a $5,000 to $20,000 markup on these vehicles. I work in finance. I'm an investment manager during the day. I am not going to pay above MSRP. I didn't want to pay MSRP. I mean, I'm a wheeler dealer. I will grind and grind and grind to get a deal on a vehicle. I absolutely hate losing money. I hate spending money. And it took everything I had to even pay MSRP. But the luxury features on this, they're nice, but it's not the Lexus. I mean, the Lexus, you're getting soft touch leather, you're getting that next step above. But here we are in a full-size family vehicle, and you're $75,000 for second tier. You're $85,000, $95,000, $100,000 now into these vehicles, and that's hard to swallow for most people. So I would say a major con of these big SUVs are the price. Another thing that's kind of surprising, so this is a full-size vehicle. This competes with your Tahoes and your Yukons and your Jeep Grand Wagoneers and the Wagoneer and those bigger SUVs. The one thing that's a letdown, this is probably the biggest letdown of this vehicle, and that's the cargo space. So because Toyota did not put the gasoline only engine in this car or in this SUV, we're stuck with a battery in the third row that sits up, 4 to 5 inches above the cargo floor. So you've got a riser under there about 4 inches, and that's your battery for the hybrid. And then on top of that, another 8 inches are the third row seats. So the third row seats aren't flush. They aren't flat. Like if you open up a new Yukon or a new Tahoe, you know, there's a little bump and then the whole cargo area is perfectly flat. So you could just throw your luggage in there and have everything smooth and flat, no big deal. Well, in this vehicle, it's not that way. You've got a little shelf area, and then they were creative and made like a little adjustable shelf to try to make it level. But then you got the step up to the battery and a step up then to your seat. So you lose almost a foot of vertical cargo space for the entire width of the back. And that's a real game changer. So where that has the biggest impact on my family is we still drive my wife's 2019 Yukon when we go on a road trip with the dogs, because we've got a golden retriever and a mini golden doodle, and we need the captain's chairs in the back so that the big dog can sleep down the middle, little dog sits up here on my wife's lap. But we need that extra space where this has the bench seat in it in the Limited, and the third row area. I never take the dogs in this car. Yes, it's because the golden retriever sheds. That definitely plays into it. But shh, don't tell my wife. That's why I drive her car. She has the tan interior with a tan colored dog, so it works better than the black floorboards. But what it's really about is I don't feel safe having the dogs in here when, like, the little dog sitting in the front seat or on the back seat, no big deal, because she's little and she'll fit in the seat. But with the big dog, with a 65, 70 pound golden retriever, even if I lay the second row down, there's no level spot. So he would either has to try to lay and stay perfectly still on the back of these two seats or on the back of the third row seats. Well, there's a big gap for the floorboard between them in the front and in the back and in the way back. So the floor is like this. You know, you've got all these different elevations. So he's constantly jostling around, and I'm afraid he's going to get hurt. I'm afraid he's going to get his leg stuck, and, you know, and then we're going to have $5,000 vet bills or something for a broken leg. So I just don't bring him in here. I'll take the little dog because she can just sit in the front seat, and she's old. She's 9, 10 years old. She's just going to curl up and go to sleep. But I won't bring the 2-year-old puppy in the car because it's just not a good fit. Where that Yukon, the third row folds flat. I can fold down the back two captain's chairs or leave them up, and he's got plenty of stable ground to be able to have as a platform. So if we're going to take the dogs anywhere, we're taking that car versus this one. You know, that's just kind of how it is. So if you have dogs, this probably isn't the right one for you. Or the storage side of things, you definitely do lose storage with the cargo area. Another con, and this is personal preference, I like the V8s. It takes me a little while to warm up to technology. Like I'm a gadget guy. I've always, like, as a kid, we used to hike on the Appalachian Trail, and my trail nickname was Go-Go Gadgets. If you remember that cartoon, the guy who had all the tools for everything, well, that was me. We would spend 5 days hiking 10 miles a day, and we could have survived out there for months, because if there was a gadget, for a survival gadget or a tool that we were going to need, I probably had it, because that's just how I am. But when it comes to the reliability and the technology of a car, I appreciate the older, more reliable, time-tested engineering. I mean, there's 80 years of engineering in a lot of these motors that they're now scrapping and going to a newer setup with turbos, and there's just a lot more things that can go wrong with them. So the jury's going to be out, but I just have always loved the reliability of the V8. Now, the driving experience of this is great. It sounds kind of anemic. It kind of grumbles versus rumbles. Like, it kind of moans when you hit it with the V6, but the performance is great. So that's a definite positive, is the performance of it. I'm very happy with the response of the motor. The tech is good. It could be a little bit better. The infotainment center system isn't perfect. I actually have a little upgrade that I've done from an infotainment system. I hate the fact that Toyota now makes you subscribe to their services. That is just the dumbest thing ever. I mean, guys, we just paid $80,000 to buy your car, to have to turn around and pay you a subscription fee to get GPS services when, well, I'm recording on my phone, but where all of us use our cell phones anyway. So why are you trying to charge us for something that we may really not even use that much? Now, maybe that's why. Maybe you're trying to, well, it's all about money. We know how that is. But I find that the tech could be better, and I've made some modifications. I can't pull it off right now. We'll do a video about that, some of the accessories and some of the upgrades I've done. So it'll be a couple weeks before that comes out. But you can check back and we'll do a video about that. And so I would say it is slightly hard to justify this compared to the competitors if you have dogs. And, you know, I've already kind of harped on that when I talked about the cargo area. The cargo area is the biggest downside to this vehicle. If Toyota, not if you, but if Toyota would give us the non-hybrid motor, let the third row seats, either let them go back to the first generation. Let us remove them. Let us take it out if we need to. But let us have the ability to have a level cargo area. That's important. I rarely use my third row seats, other than going to a football game and, you know, trying to, when parking's really tight, we'll need the extra space. But I could put them in for that. You know, if I could just take those seats out and throw them in the garage, I'd gain an extra 8 inches of storage, even with the hybrid battery. So I think, I'm sure it has to do with EPA standards and all the regulations, but I'd love it if they would do away with the hybrid, or at least give us the option of not having to buy the hybrid in this vehicle. You know, so if you have pets or that cargo room, you know, you probably should at least look at the Yukon, the Tahoes, the Expeditions, the Wagoneers. Now, they've got plenty of problems too. So you're not necessarily buying less problems, but you are trading problems, if that makes sense. So they have their flaws, but the cargo area is not one of them. So that brings us kind of to the big question, which we tried to answer is it worth it? And yeah, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Now, if I were going to go buy one today and money was no object, I would have to look at the Platinum. I would look probably at a 2025 Platinum, so it has the massaging seats. And I would, if you're going to spend this kind of money, I would want the articulating, I've had the hardest time with these running boards. I'd like to have the articulating running boards for ease of getting in and out, and for my parents to get in and out of the car. And that would also give you heated seats in the back seat. You know, that my kids have been spoiled by my wife's car having heated seats in the back. And when we go to the mountains or go skiing and whatnot, you know, it's a nice to have. You don't need it, but it's a nice to have. Or from a resale standpoint, I haven't done the research, but we ought to look at the TRD Pro. It might be worth spending. So like if you were buying a Ford, I'm going off on a tangent here. So if you were going to buy a Ford F-150, you should go buy the Ford F-150, the Raptor. Yes, you're going to spend 15, 20, maybe more now, but you're probably going to spend $20,000 more up front. But the resale value of the Raptor relative to the resale of a just standard F-150, night and day. It's worth paying up for the Raptor. What we need to see, I mean, because, you know, this vehicle's only been out 2 years. I got one of the first ones delivered. So one of the big questions we're going to have to answer is, what does the resale value look like? Black Book on this, again, I paid, I think, $75,000 MSRP with everything added on. Black Book for trade-in, Black Book is somewhere like 55 to 60, somewhere in that range. Last time I looked, last week, Black Book on this vehicle. So in 2 years, you know, I've depreciated $10,000, $15,000. So, you know, that's not bad, but there aren't many of these out. We're starting to see 25s are now starting to be produced faster and more of them. But the 23s, they didn't make many. They didn't make that many 24s. So they're still holding their value reasonably well. So that's a good thing. So yes, I would absolutely buy another one, but I would absolutely price shop. Now, Toyota does not have the same problem with the Sequoia. The Tundras are stacking up, but go look and see how much inventory you can find. The Sequoias don't have the same inventory. If a Toyota Tundra, they are stacking them up. If you're looking at Fords, they are stacked up everywhere. If you're looking at a Jeep, my goodness, I mean, dealers don't have anywhere else to put another vehicle. I mean, if they could stack them on top of each other, they would, because there's no more room. So don't pay full price on vehicles right now. You know, shop, network. You know, I'll do a video here in a couple weeks talking about how to get a good deal on a new SUV or vehicle today. But yes, if I were going to buy another big SUV and I was willing to spend the money it takes to get into one of these, I would buy it again. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and check back here. We got another video coming in on the Sequoia here in another week, and we will see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.